Hi folks, welcome to another episode of Coffee and HEMA with me, Jamie McKeever. I am continuing on the conversations about judging styles as part of tournament design, and this is what I've been building up to: the protest rule, how it works in the Wessex Albion system in general, but also sort of why I think it's valuable. Um, I will talk more generally because it is useful in other systems as well. So the whole thing that inspired this rant about judging systems is that I've seen a lot of videos looking at particularly kind of finals and things like that from Albion Cup recently, where people are like, what's with all these protests, or why the judge keep talking to the fencers? And I've seen a lot of people saying, well, they're just accepting what the fencers say, and of course the fencers are going to say that they won and they're amazing and that all their hits are great, and basically doubting that the protest rule has any value. I have run tournaments both with and without the protest rule, and do have some views about what it's good for and some of the problems with it, but they're very different to the comments I've seen online. So, in case you're not aware, right? I mean, it should be relatively obvious from the name, but in Wessex, what happens is judges say halt, fencers go back to the corners, judges explain the exchange and give a score, and at that point, if the fencer disagrees with any part of that, they're able to put their hand up. What they should do is politely put their hand up and politely say, I think that's wrong. Here's what I think happened. Really does the explanation for the judge helps this a lot, because sometimes, especially if they're rule timing out from hit quality, they fencers tend not to protest that. They tend to protest things like, no, I think my blow actually did go through the parry, or no, I'm pretty sure I hit him here, right, or whatever, and you didn't see this hit. The judge will then may or may not usually then go speak to the other fencer and get their opinion too, and then with what the judge has seen, what the side judge has reported, and the information from the two fencers, will consider their decision again. They may keep their original decision, they may revise their original decision, and that revision may or may not be in line with what the fencers thought happened. Sometimes as well, you see this a lot in Wessex. If there are four different opinions from each person about what happened, we'll just throw out the exchange because it's clearly messy and no one's sure, which does happen, right? And the important thing to remember with this is that the protest rule is used in Wessex, used in most systems, is gaining additional opinions, but those opinions have no more weight than the other opinions. Right, so the judge is not going up to the fencer, and the fencer is saying, "No, I definitely hit them," and the judge is saying, "Well, then you must have definitely hit them, right?" Because fencers can be wrong, and they frequently are. Fencers can be lying, and that definitely happens too, or grossly exaggerating things. But it has a number of benefits. One is kind of this, at least improved perception of justice. The fencers have had the opportunity to be heard. Their opinion has been given, and the judge will normally say, "No, we disagree. We saw that that hit that you're talking, we think was flat, or we think was low quality, or maybe it barely flopped around the blade in a parry, but that's not a scoring hit, right?" And again, they get their feedback directly on whatever point they think that they had, why it wasn't or why it was a point. Fences, there is also an increased actual justice in that. Absolutely, things are missed by judges, and this is one way of catching them. Quite often, fencers will agree. Like one fencer will say, "No, I hit him in the face," and they'll go to the other fencer, and the other fencer will say, "Yeah, no, you definitely hit me in the face." Often, these are also like hit location differences. Like it's like big problem, which we're hoping fixing by target location next year, is like if a strike comes to the mask and it slides down to the shoulder, it looks like it's the shoulder. Arguably, this should all just be head anyway, but if it's not. It's quite difficult for a judge to see that because you see the final resting location rather than the first striking location is more easy to see. So that kind of clarification from fencers can be very helpful. But importantly, it's just more information, and fencers are typically wrong in many, many ways. One thing that fencers are very bad about judging is the hit quality of their hits. Particularly flat hits against them are essentially almost impossible for a fencer to tell the difference. If you get hit here with a flat or a strong, fuck knows, right? Like you have no way of telling which one that was. And quite often what will happen is fencers might call against themselves with a protest. That happens too, by the way. Fencers go in both directions. They might say, no, I was definitely hit in the head, and the judge would say, yes, you were, but it was a flat hit, right? And again, in kind of explaining things will help make sure that they don't protest explaining to you like that. It is useful as a judge, right, to get the extra sets of opinions. Some fences are more useful than others. Some are not very able to kind of play back what happened. Some kind of, and this is an issue, some kind of deliberately kind of obscure things either by saying they don't know when they do know, or by exaggerating or saying things that clearly didn't happen. They are relatively rare. I will say most fencers use the protest rule honestly. Most protests are in good faith and don't cause these issues. And by the way, it's pretty obvious when the fences are lying. It's not hard to work it out, both individually and when the fencer has a pattern of doing that, and you let them give their opinion and don't give it much weight because they've proven themselves to be an untrustworthy source of information. With the head ref's powers in Wessex, you're able to make all these considerations and understand, like, is this valid, right? Is this useful information? Is this not useful information? The biggest problem with the protest rule, I would say, more than anything to do with justice, is absolutely an order issue, because it slows things down. It absolutely makes the individual calls slower, because you've made your work from in a normal exchange, from the moment a hit is landed to the moment you've explained and made your decision, is probably about 10 seconds, right? With a protest, that's going to go up to at least 30 seconds, right? Because you've got to go to the fencer, they give their opinion, go to the fencer, consider it, and come back, maybe even longer, right? So normally 3-minute matches at Wessex can sometimes last as long as 8-9 minutes if there's a heavy protesting. We did implement a system of having a maximum of 3 protests in the pools to stop this somewhat, right? 3 protests in your favour in the pools to try and slow things down. So not slow things down, which has had some success, but at the end of the day, if you're allowing protest, it does take more time, which is one of the reasons why I ran a system called Some Sword Shenanigans that I'm going to talk about at the end of this series, because there's some interesting features about it that I will share, where I basically canned the protest rule because I didn't want to slow things down, and I made some other rules about sort of benefit of doubt and this kind of stuff to supplement it. And fencers got frustrated at least as much from being unable to say when they were hit as when as their own hits, and it definitely goes both ways. And I've had this in tournaments again without protest rule, where actually I think it was Jake Norwood. I fenced him at Swordfish one year in the pools, and to be clear, he definitely won, but judges saw all of his hits and saw none of mine. So he did not. He won by less of a margin than the score showed, and he came up to me afterwards and saying, "You got done dirty by the judges, right? The score was not that," which I agreed. It was nice of him to say, and this is my point, that that kind of justice aspect isn't just about fencers wanting their own points. The most frustrations comments I had from that were about fencers saying, "I really wanted to say I got hit in the face, but I wasn't allowed to," right? And that kind of causes problems as well. So having the protest rule, right, it does lead to more accurate outcomes because you're getting more information. And if it's bad information, you just don't use it, and you go back to the original call, or it might lead to throwing something out, or if no one else agrees with it, it's just information, but the fence is probably wrong, right? So it definitely increases more accuracy. I think the best benefit is it gives fencers that then feel heard. So even when calls go against them, they understand why they went against them, and they don't get quite as salty about these calls, right? Because they voiced their opinion, and it was overruled, but they still voiced it. It was there, right? So that definitely helps on that aspect to it. The biggest downside is not that the fences become more powerful, because they really don't, but that it slows things down. And some judges have longer conversations than others. You need to make those conversations as snappy as possible, ideally. But even if you are being quick, it's still going to increase a fight incredibly by having a protest rule in, and that causes you logistical headaches as a tournament organizer. So that's how the protest rule works. That's why I like it. Consider using it, but definitely it's not something that I would say you must have, because it has challenges to go with it as well. Thanks for watching.